Hey guys, I had a few people ask me for a video about this. I'm not much of a videographer, but here it goes. What they're wanting to know, I added a fuse block up here under the hood of my 2021 UForce 1000. Uh, I've got it wired up as an accessory fuse block. That way, when you turn the key off, it shuts off everything that's on that fuse block. I don't have a link or anything for this fuse block or the little distribution panel next to it, but it was on Amazon. It's Online LED is the brand of it. It's a 6-circuit distribution block and a 6-circuit fuse block with 6 positions for relays also. I added it because I wanted to have somewhere to tie in accessories that will turn off with the key. CFMOTO doesn't really have a good place to get those circuits from, so I figured the easiest thing would just be to add my own. I just added the 2 lights in the front for they're a combination unit from Olympus Off-Road that'll have a driving light that's a white light and fog light that's amber. And then I also added the unit up top here that's a, I think it's Nightlight 51-inch spot flood combo light bar. I know some people will say, you know, what did you mount it up there for? You know, it's just going to get ripped off by trees. Well, I don't really plan on taking this through any wooded areas or anything like that. My main reason for purchasing this unit was to be able to plow snow in the wintertime, so I've got a 72-inch KFI poly blade for the front of it and all that good stuff. So chances of ripping that thing off, pretty slim in my instance. I've got in the factory switch locations, I wired a switch here for the winch, so it has your winch in and out up there. That way I don't have to use the factory little plug thing and have a handheld deal, because I don't want to mess around with that. This one is going to always be in the same location, so I don't have to worry about dropping it, finding it, all that stuff, and I don't have to worry about using the wireless one, you know, where it shuts off after a certain time or the batteries die or whatever other stuff could possibly happen. But that'll come into play in a little bit here. It'll make a little bit more sense why I'm even pointing that out, because that's just tied into the factory wiring up under the hood there. We have a switch for the LED light bar, switch for the spotlights, and then the last one over there is the fog lights. Again, the spot and the fog lights are the same actual lights, they just put out a different beam. As you can see, kind of looking out front, well, maybe you can't because it's not dark, but I can flip on all the switches. Nothing comes on or anything because I don't have the key on right now. You can wire these all up where they're hot all the time and you can turn them on without the key on. I didn't want mine that way. I have nieces and nephews that can get in this, climb in. I don't want them hitting buttons and turning stuff on, me not knowing, and then come out to a dead battery. So I wanted them all set up where they're going to be shut off if the key isn't on. The empty spot right there, I had the Eco switch in there, but all it did was make the little icon on the dash change, didn't change a damn thing other than that. So that got pulled out. County next to us is going to allow UTVs on some trails, but you got to have turn signals, so I'll be getting that switch put in there. That'll be a whole nother situation. Anyway, the way I've got this thing wired up, the main power comes in right here, and then this side here just all branches off over to the fuse panel. This wire right here is a 8-gauge wire that I ran. I installed car audio for 20 years professionally, so had some leftover wire and whatnot, so that runs back to the back near the battery. Not directly to the battery, but near it. And then all these individual circuits here come over to these fuses over here. Top one is, it gives me switched power for all of the switched lights, and then after it goes through the switches, triggers my relays for my other lights. This one also will power the switched power on my MB Court soundbar. By the way, MB Court soundbar, it's the same one that you can get from CFMOTO as far as the head unit itself, and the speakers are the same. This one is the slightly wider one than what you can get through CFMOTO. I think it fits the UForce 1000 a little bit better with the width, and it was also cheaper. So everything else the same, just comes in an MB Court box and not actually marked as CFMOTO, but whatever. So that's what this first fuse is here. The second fuse is going to be for the spotlights. Third fuse is for the fog lights. Fourth fuse down is going to be for the rooftop LED bar. And then these are fog, spot, and light bar. Basically, when you turn on the switches inside, it triggers the relay off of this circuit, and then power on the other side of the fuse from here is going to go into the relay and then out to its, you know, wherever it's got to go to power up the different accessories. So the actual trigger wire is all off this first one, and then each unit basically has 20 amps available to feed it. Couldn't find anything that said the actual amp draw on any of the units, so I wired it with wire that's appropriate for 20 amp fuses and just did it 20 amp. Haven't had any issues. Can probably knock the spots and the fogs down to 10 amps each. I believe that light bar does need at least 15, but it's fine at 20. It's all the wire is rated for it. Now, in order to get your accessory power, you have to get something that will turn on and off with the key. Underneath here, this is all of your stuff for the winch. This is, since I had to tie into that to add that switch, this has a switched power wire on it. So I came off of there, I believe, it's down there somewhere. Forget which one it is, but they're all labeled. And it says which one is your accessory or your switched power. Ran that through inside. By the way, all of my wiring runs across down there through. If you get underneath here, can't see where it drops through, but it all comes down here, tie wrapped in. And then can't really see it, but you have a big grommet right there where all of your main wires come through. Poked through the side of that grommet, in the grommet, not breaking through the actual side of it, but through the actual grommet so it's protected. And then that all goes in underneath the dash. Down where you can't see it, but whatever. Trust me, that's where it goes. So anyway, that trigger wire off the winch relay comes through, goes up, ties into my winch switch, and then there's two other wires in there for your in and out. Those are ran in the same deal as well. But that is also tied on from there, and then runs back out around comes down through here and up, and I've got a heavy duty relay there, so that's what that winch wire will trigger that relay to turn on. Off of the positive of the battery comes into one side of the relay. Out the other side is that 8-gauge wire that runs, again, down through all that, through there, and it goes up to that fuse block up under there. When you're routing this wire, be mindful. These two silver tubes right here, those are your for your radiator, so those do get hot. Not only did I put the wire in a split loom, but I've got this heat resistant wrap on it too, just in case. You'd probably be all right with just the split loom on it, but I had this stuff left over from another project car that I was working on, so I went ahead and went all the way from up under there back through, and then kind of let it stop right there, and then just tied it off right there. You do want to make sure you fuse it. Want to fuse within 18 inches of the battery is kind of the standard. Eventually I will change this, but I just kind of worked with what I had. Eventually I'll put the fuse actually between the battery and this relay. Right now it's not fused from the battery to this relay, and then off of this relay it then goes through that fuse right there. Eventually I'm going to switch that out for something that's a little more waterproof. I mean, I installed those for 20 years in cars for car stereos, never had a problem with one. But I would like to put something a little bit more water resistant on there. Biggest thing on your main, on any wires that you're going to use in a car, make sure you use an oxygen-free copper wire. That'll help prevent corrosion in the wire. I've got a 40 amp fuse in that. I believe the 8-gauge in the car audio wire that I have is rated for 60 amps, but I'm never going to use that, so 40 amp was just fine. New fuse holder, I will probably get away from the glass fuse in there and go with a bolt-in A&L style fuse. Depends on what I can find for a fuse holder. But anyway, coming off that winch power that's switched will trigger this relay, and then that'll change your power wire up to that distribution block up there and make it where it's switched on and off with the car. That relay right there I found on Amazon. It's a 12 volt 250 amp relay. Would I trust it for 250 amps? Probably not. Or at least I wouldn't expect it to last real long, but for the max 40 amp that I'm going to have on it, it should be just fine. It seems to be a relatively well sealed unit. I've got it mounted just using, there's 2 factory holes right there on my 2021. I don't know if other years have those. Couldn't tell you what size bolt it is or thread pitch or anything like that. I had one laying around, it fit, so I used it. Wanted to keep it mounted up somewhat high so that it wouldn't get wet or too wet. Obviously it gets some splashing in here, but I think we should be okay. I bought a UTV, not a boat, so don't plan on putting it in the water. On that note, the fuse block and the distribution block, these online LED ones, they are gasketed, and then all of your connections on the bottom side do go through rubber grommets, so they are supposed to be waterproof. Whether or not I necessarily think they're 100% waterproof, maybe not, but they seem to be pretty well built, so you know, not too bad. This one's gasketed too. Covers click on nice. As far as the mounting of them, I picked up some stainless, like not self-tappers, but some stainless 1-inch screws. Screwed them down into this lip that's on here. There's a couple of spots, can't really tell if you can see them, but you can tell the radiator's down below there, but there is an air gap there. And with the 1-inch screws, they've got plenty of clearance there. But these are both mounted, you know, 2 screws here, 2 screws there. And then they come with these little bent tabs, so you can kind of configure them however for uneven surfaces. They weren't quite long enough, so what I did is I drilled some 1/4-inch holes down there. Can't really see it, but was able to get my hand in there, stuck a 1/4-20 screw up from below, put a nut on it, tightened it up, then stuck these little angled feet that come with it. Actually, I might be able to get a better shot of that one. You can kind of see how it is, just to get it to space it so it would kind of sit level. Hood still fits fine, no clearance issues there. If you look across it, you can kind of see it's fairly close, but like I said, the hood still clears just fine. There's no issues with that whatsoever. So that's kind of all I got with it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to help. Like I said, I'm not much of a videographer, so hopefully this will go through and y'all can put up with my rambling. Thanks.